Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and in today's video I want to address in a little bit more detail and concrete examples what have I been experiencing regarding the BOOX OS 4.1. Now, I have been quite vocal about warning people to stay away from OS 4.1, and I can see in the comments that some people do agree, and there are people who are simply saying like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, everything is honky-dory and it's so much better, with some comments actually even ranging to insults. So today I want to address the good, the bad and the ugly that I personally have been experiencing on my very own BOOX Go 10.3. My poor Go 10.3 was accidentally updated to OS 4.1, and what's my personal experience. And then you can be the judge and see if it's a matter of me having a half a brain, or being a crybaby, or being a combination of both, or is it maybe something else? Let's start first with the good of the OS 4.1. So the Blondies of this release, first one of all would have to be the addition of the infinite pages. This is something that BOOX as a platform didn't have, and now they've introduced it, and while you know you can't really use your custom templates in infinite pages, you do have the basics that are working quite okay. And the nice thing about it is that it's actually, expanding by another length of a page, of a normal screen page, as you reach the bottom of that current page. However, there is a problem, and that is that if you choose to have an infinite notebook, you only get to have that infinite notebook and one page. You don't have an option like in Remarkable, for example, to have multiple pages in a normal notebook, or to simply have an infinite page in a normal notebook. It's effectively an infinite notebook that's a single page. So while the implementation definitely can be improved, and again, it's very much kind of narrowed and boxed down, it's not streamlined, and it's another point of friction for those who would maybe want to combine infinite page, for example, calculations, and then another page in the same notebook with written stuff. Well, you can't do that. But at the very least, you do have that infinite notebook single page thing. Now, the second Blondie of the OS 4.1 would be in the introduction of toolbar presets in notebooks. You will notice that you now have a little star if you've updated to 4.1, and there you will have the option to switch between different toolbar presets that are all editable. This, I think, is excellent, as it allows you to kind of switch between, I don't know, for example, if you wanted to have an MDO type of a toolbar, or sketching toolbar, or journaling toolbar, or working toolbar, something like that. But either way, introduction of presets for a toolbar is a very good and a very meaningful update in the OS 4.1. That being said, that toolbar and that improvement is only valid for the notebooks of the BOOX OS 4.1, because the handwriting toolbar and stuff like that in your reader side of things, well, it hasn't had any kind of update. You do have a glaring discrepancy between visual style and functionalities and rules of how you engage and how you work with between the handwriting toolbar in a notebook and in a reader. Speaking of reader, there are good things, or Blondie things, in the reader as well. And there too, you also have introduction of presets, just UX-wise. But they did actually give you an option to have a couple of presets. Most meaningful ones are in the styles themselves. So now you can actually set up several different styles that you like and presets, and you can apply one for textbook with higher contrast, where you don't care about the images and things like that, or maybe another preset for something that's like graphics rich, where you want filtering of images, less contrast so that you can see more grayscale or whatever, or colors if you have a color tablet, or maybe a separate setup for comic books. So that as well is a genuinely good update. Unfortunately, none of the functionalities are actually new, and the way that it's been implemented is basically just a user interface reshuffle of elements from other places into one here, and they're also kind of multi-layered in not a really logical way. It's not a disaster, but it's definitely something that could have and should have been done in a better way. So while we do have a step back, we also have a step forward with, yeah, you do have the presets for styles, and that's a good thing. Speaking of presets, we also have the e-ink Wise, which is now, well, it has introduced a couple of things. One of the step backs is that now you only have, across the platforms, 2 refresh modes, the Aged or Regal and the Speed mode. But the good thing about the whole e-ink Wise is that you also have the standardization of introduction of presets in there as well. So you can create your own presets for your own refresh modes, and that's a nice thing to see as well. In the notebooks, there's also been improvements to how you can delete the strokes, and you can have a proper brush for erasing strokes that doesn't really erase strokes, but actually kind of takes away the areas of that, which is really, really good for drawing. Region eraser works nice as well, and generally the performance of the erasing has been improved. Now, one caveat here is that while I personally have not experienced that on my Go 10.3, I have had comments from actually a couple of users mentioning that on their devices, and I think it was on their Note Max, that the erasing would force this kind of strange refresh update and switching between refresh modes. So I can't really attest to that because I haven't seen examples of that being happening, and I can't really reproduce that or attest that I've experienced that on my Go 10.3, but it might be an issue that's dependent on a per device basis, in this case Note Max. So it's something to kind of be aware of, but generally speaking, deleting strokes in notebooks has been improved in the OS 4.1. The last Blondie of the goods, it's the straight line adjustment. If you draw a straight line and you actually get the straight line to appear, then you do have the both anchors to adjust the length of the line. You can rotate it as well, but a really cool thing is that we now have 90-degree snapping, which works quite well. So it's really, really easy to create a perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical lines, and then adjust the lengths and reposition it where you want it and need it exactly. So that's a genuine improvement and step forward, but Books wouldn't be Books if there weren't some steps backwards as well regarding that, and we'll cover that in the bads of the OS 4.1. And now for the angel eyes, or the bad of the OS 4.1 that I have been experiencing personally on my own personal BOOX Go 10.3. First is something that I've noticed immediately, and that was dramatic inconsistency in loading notebooks. Existing notebooks, new notebooks, it doesn't matter. It's all over the place. The same notebook can one time open up relatively normally, and other time in the same session it can just take for a really, really long time to open, and sometimes it doesn't even open, or it just actually says loading, then shows the toolbar and a completely blank screen with no functionalities exposed to you whatsoever. And then you need to close it, and then you try to open it again, and then you close it and you open it again, or restart the device and then throw the dice and see, hey, maybe this time I will be able to open up my notebook and do some work. Here's hoping. And even if you do manage to open that notebook, well, there's random crashes that you can experience. That's also the fun part of this whole thing. And just like Angel Eyes from the good, the bad, and the ugly, the OS 4.1 in the notebooks behaves pretty much the same way. You never know what it is that you're going to be getting, especially with random crashes. I just want to be extremely clear about this. I am talking about things that I have observed and that I am continuously experiencing, not just a couple of times. These are continuous issues on the same device and using the same pen, everything exactly the same. The same documents, the same notebooks, the same tools, everything exactly the same as it has been for a really long time. And the only element of the equation that has changed in my setup is the OS 4.1. So there's no question if it's like, oh, have you maybe tried that? No, 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 no. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the OS in this equation, and those are the examples that I have been observing now. And I'm mentioning only the stuff that has appeared with the OS 4.1, not the already previously existing problems that were already present with the earlier version as well. So with that in mind, the AI gestures for drawing a line we talked about in the Blondie or the good section, that you now have the adjustment points, which is genuinely good. However, the bad thing is that while you do have that, your rate of success is going to be rather bad. Because remember, same person, same device, same pen, same notebook, me, same drawing a line, and I never ever had a problem of the device actually detecting a line and creating a perfectly straight line. Now, it's basically always different stages of waviness. I draw a line and it just draws a wavy line. It's like, nope. Draw a line, draws a wavy line. Draw a line, draws a wavy line. It's like a competition kind of thing. It's like, who's gonna win? And roughly the aspect ratio is kind of 4:1, 5:1. So I'm gonna get one straight line in 5 attempts. Now, I tend to do double straight lines for my titles in my notebooks. So that means that instead of drawing 2 lines before and continuing with my work, now on average, I would have to do 10 attempts so that I can get 2 straight lines underneath my title. Yeah, that gets boring and old real quick. So what do I end up doing? Well, I stop using the tool that I relied upon and it worked perfectly before the update. And that's wavy line. That actually is a nice segue into a really bad thing that has been introduced in Go at Go 10.3 for at least in my case. I don't know for other devices, but that's my experience. Where the drawing precision is now actually bad. And what do I mean by that? Well, they've introduced jagged lines and jagged inconsistencies in drawing strokes on my device. And this is the same device and the same type of example that I've used previously, where it actually won over every other category because of the precision and consistency of drawing lines. Now, just to be clear, I use a fine liner all the time, which is not a pressure sensitive brush. And again, I have to stress out, I know it's boring, but it's important, same device, same user, same pen, same notebook. Different strokes, different precision, different results. And that is a huge issue with the OS 4.1 for me, because I keep getting ugly, really ugly, imprecise results. And that is unfortunately picked up, that jaggedness, that's what this device is actually picking up and saying, oh, you've drawn a wavy line. No, I haven't. I've drawn a straight line, but the buggy software of your device has drawn a jagged line, which then your AI interprets as, hey, here you go, here's a wavy line. It's truly maddening. And even if that was not enough, do you remember that good old bug of disappearing strokes? Where they just disappear and then you flip a page and then you flip a page back and then they come back? Well, that one's back as well. That one was resolved, but it's back now. So, yay! Then you're going to run into sessions that are very strange, where your AI tools such as drawing around the selection to create a selection so that you can modify it, erase it, move it, or anything like that, simply refuse to work. And it's not just one AI gesture, but seemingly all of the AI gestures basically randomly will stop working. Scribbling to delete, lasso to select, anything. Like lines, nothing. Everything just completely stops, even though you have it turned on. Have you tried turning it on and off again? So you do. You turn the option off, you turn the option on. Nope, still nothing. You exit the notebook, you come back into the notebook. Nope, still nothing. The only thing that happens that maybe it will fix it, but it's still not a guarantee, is a restart. So again, you have another issue where something that worked perfectly reliable and it just worked. You didn't think about it. It was just there. A tool that I use on a daily basis. Right now it's like, let's toss the dice and see Is it going to work? How is it going to work? What's going to happen here? And then you run into these really, really bizarre bugs where actually the tools did work, but they were weird. You know, you have some kind of weird type of behavior. Circle and erases, but it doesn't erase, and it comes back, and then it flips back, and it's like, have I erased it? What happened here? And then eventually it goes away, and on your page, it's all fine, right? So you close down the document here, you let it synchronize to your cloud, and then I go onto my Notemax to continue working on the same notebook. And the first thing that I notice is, even though I'm using the exact same template and I'm using the exact same notebook and the exact same workflow that I've used for well over a year, between these exact same two devices, same template, same devices, same workflow, everything the same, the strokes used to synchronize normally, and I have my strokes synchronized so that they match. Well, they no longer do, because the entries that I make on Go 10.3, which are then synchronized and loaded up on the Notemax, they are ever so slightly thicker. It's not a drastic thing, but it's definitely different, and your eye picks up on it because one page is nice and slim and something that you adjusted for your own needs. Then you flip a page and it's like a little bit blobby and a little bit jaggedy, and it's like, well, what the hell happened? And then you go again, and then da-da-da. Now the weird part is that if you open that notebook on Notemax and you have that kind of stuff, and then you synchronize it again, Notemax is going to fix those strokes into its standard, and then they're going to be actually fine. That is until you again introduce a session here, and then, yeah, all over again, you're going to have the same thing. And that's not such a big thing, it's just a slight annoyance, but it's unnecessary that it's there because it wasn't there before. So it's a step back, for sure. However, the much bigger issue is, you remember that stuff with the weird AI tools that I talked about that you can't delete and you delete and it's like really strange behavior? Well, you synchronize that kind of session, you open it up on your Notemax, only to see that your entire page has been completely ruined because all of those things that you were trying to do were basically committed as strokes onto your notebook. And to make it even better, it becomes difficult to erase them for whatever reason, because the eraser simply didn't want to erase them. It acted like they weren't there. That is a huge, huge step back. That's many steps back from a reliable workflow between the portable device that you do on the Go, Go 10.3, it's in the name, and your main workstation, which would be in this case Notemax. Perfectly reliable pairing, completely ruined with one component, software. And then we get to the handwriting toolbar, which has been completely revamped, and while it does have the goods that I have mentioned, it also has a ton of bad things. The toolbar hiding and unhiding is no longer intuitive, because even if you do choose the option to hide the toolbar with the tap on the Pac-Man, the horrible Pac-Man icon, which is really ugly, but okay. The toolbar completely disappears, but you no longer have the handle option to simply tap on to expose the toolbar back again, which was a really, really elegant and a nice solution from before. No reason to actually get rid of that, but that's no longer a thing. So why is that a problem? Because BOOX devices are really not that good with palm rejection stuff. In notebooks, I turn off the navigation and bottom gestures, so what I do rely upon is the left-hand swipe, left side swipe, to exit the notebook when I need to. If your notebook toolbar is on the left-hand side and you hide it, what's the gesture to actually get it back? Well, it's to swipe from the left. However, your system also has swipe from the left gesture that you can customize. And in my case, it's exiting the notebook. In your case, it may be something else. But once your toolbar is hidden, the only way to actually get it back is to do left side swipe, which doubles and conflicts directly with the system side swipe as well. So you may exit the notebook, or you may actually unhide the toolbar. The only reliable way that I've managed to kind of figure out how to make that work is to swipe and hold for at least like a second or so, and then release. And then the system gesture is going to say like, yeah, that's not a thing. But the toolbar is going to say like, hey, that's maybe me. And then you will be able to get the toolbar. Is there a way around it? Yeah, I just told you, but it sucks. It's something that used to work perfectly normally, and now it's another added point of friction without any reason at all. Now, toolbar docking, that's a really big problem for me, because now you have, again, completely without any reason whatsoever, you cannot dock the toolbar perfectly to the line of the screen. There's a small gap, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just there, and that's it. That completely ruins the workflow for me because of the zoom aspects, the whole thing. It's unnecessary, and basically your workflow experience is another step back, not an improvement, not an advancement, a step back. And as if all of that was not enough, they had to screw around with the sizing of the toolbar as well, because you now no longer have fine-tuning adjustments, which you had before, so you could fine-tune it really, really precisely for the document and for your own personal needs. That's no longer the case. Now you have extra small, small, medium, large, and maybe 5 options. And while that's fine, there's zero reason why that could not have been simply implemented as snapping presets on the already existing scale. Why remove the mid-steps options? That's completely ridiculous. But that's how it is right now. And then we got the smaller category, which is the ugly. And the ugly would be, for me, in the reader, the anchor. That one is also the bad, but it's also ugly, because every time you do a hyperlink jump in a document, you will see like a huge animated, on an e-ink device, kind of thing that introduces ghosting. It's really messy and it's really ugly. That says, hey, stays there for a couple of seconds. If you want to go back to the page, you can. Oh, I guess you don't want to, so I'm just going to go boop, 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 into a smaller anchor that's just going to stay there, overlaid on top of all of your content of the document, which is a problem because it's huge, and it's going to overlap normally fitted document that fits on the whole screen. It will go away after a couple of seconds, but there is nothing you can do about it to make it go away earlier. You just have to live with it, and that's it. The good thing is that people have been, very, very loud about that anchor thing, and I've heard that in the beta for 4.2, that thing is now gone. We can only hope, but there's also the always present risk of what the hell else is going to happen in the beta or in the 4.2 when that comes out. So, yeah. The ugly, I would also put the new reader layout options. I really don't understand why they've done that. I mean, they followed the preset line, which I get, but the way that it's implemented, it just ruined the functionality, because right now, in order to actually get to the point to see what it's doing and what the preset is doing, you have to go to custom and tap and go to extra settings, and then you will see exactly what you need. As before, you could choose the preset and see exactly what's going on, which is now no longer the case, and inexplicably, in the layout, they also added the PDF reflow, which is no longer called PDF reflow, it's called extract text, even though everywhere else underneath the system is still called PDF reflow or reflow, whereas only this layer, the bare minimum that they've done, which is like slap on a UX layer on top of everything else that's already there and just call it extract text, it's just another point of friction and confusion. But then again, maybe it's just me because I have a half a brain. The toolbar Pac-Man thing is ugly. It's really, really ugly. And already mentioned as bad, the jagged lines, but those are also something that goes into the category of ugly. It's very, very ugly to see the diminishing quality of the writing strokes on your tablet, which used to be one of the reasons why you wanted to use the tablet in the first place, because it had absolutely gorgeous strokes. Yeah. Those are the good, the bad, and the ugly of the OS 4.1 that I am personally experiencing every time. I wanted to say on a daily basis, but it's no longer on a daily basis because of all of that. I am no longer using my Go 10.3 on a daily basis. Even when I do go outside, I do bring it with me, but I do dread it simply because of all of these issues. And it never used to be the case. Again, in this video, I'm only mentioning the issues that are new, that were not present. So you have old potential issues that were there and all of this tacked on top. And while OS 4.1 does have good things, and I've mentioned them, and maybe another one that could be mentioned is the new brush. I laid a lot of hopes into that brush, but combined with the jagged strokes, it doesn't really matter. Maybe the brush itself is good, but the rest of the stuff that's on top of it really prevents you from enjoying using that additional brush. And that's why it's not really, it's neither good, it's neither bad, it's just like meh. It could have been a great thing, but it wasn't. That's why it was not in the good. So that's my experience, and that's how OS 4.1 has influenced me personally in my own personal setup, with the only thing that has been changed, the OS 4.1 on the BOOX Go 10.3. Now, maybe these issues are localized to just me. Maybe they are localized just to older devices that have not shipped with the OS 4.1 as default, for example, as the Note Air 5C. Maybe it's even more localized, that even if you have like 10 different Go 10.3s and you update them all to the same OS 4.1, that some of them are going to behave like mine is and some won't. But either way, I as an end user shouldn't really care about these maybes. That is the job of the development team of BOOX. They need to make sure that what they push to the users, which is irreversible. If it was reversible, there would be no problems whatsoever. You would be able to just simply, reverse it and hey ho, you're good. But it's not the case. You can update, and anything that they haven't finished, anything that they haven't tested, you're going to be the beta tester there. And as it has happened in my case, it has all but completely ruined the usability of a device that I absolutely loved and relied on whenever I was on the go. It was a no-brainer. It just goes into my pouch, I work on it, when I go back home, I synchronize it, and I continue working on Note Max, which is my daily driver. That I can no longer do, and only because of these issues. So that's my perspective. That's my experience, and that's what I have to work with as far as OS 4.1 is concerned. If you too find yourself in this kind of conundrum where you've heard the kind of warnings of what it may be with the OS 4.1 and you still haven't updated, hopefully this video will help you decide whether the risk is worth it, whether the good stuff that it does bring to the platform is worth risking all of the bad stuff. Whether or not you're going to be affected by all of the bad things, or maybe even more, or different bad things and the ugly stuff, that unfortunately right now is a roll of the dice. And whether or not that risk is going to be worth it for you, that depends on how you use this device. If you use this device casually, then it might not matter. But if you rely on this device in your workflow daily, and you want it to be not a fancy thing or I don't know like that, you just want it to be a tool that works and is out of the way and just does what you need it to do, something that you use, properly use, then that risk and leaving that stuff to chance, in my view, is unacceptable. So hopefully this video helps you understand more what are these concrete things that I keep talking about why OS 4.1 is a no-no and why you should stay away from it. I genuinely get it that it may be confusing and tempting when you see comments like I showed at the beginning, where everything is honky-dory, where I am the half-brained crybaby and all that kind of stuff. And while that may be well true, I am now sharing with you what my crybaby reasons are and what my half-brained reasons are for staying away from OS 4.1. All kidding aside, I hope that you enjoyed the video and I hope that you found it useful and informative. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!